Hello, Derek here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do a video and it's mainly going to be on layers. A lot of people when they first use Photoshop they're not sure what the layers are for, why do they have them, and straight out of the box you've got, when you open this image I've just opened here from Camera Raw, well opened from Bridge, it goes into Camera Raw, done one or two little adjustments on it, and now we're in Photoshop. And straight off the bat you started here with a background layer, and depending on what I'm doing to it, sometimes you duplicate the layer, sometimes you don't. This is primarily going to be about adjustment layers, so I'm not going to bother duplicating the layer. But you have your image layer, that's the first one, your background. The first layer you open is always going to be your background layer. Yeah, first, as you open an image, it always opens into the background layer. And down here at the bottom of the layers panel, you've got various options, and forget these two here just now. But this one here, if I click on this, this will give me but it's a blank layer, nothing in it. It's good if I want to do something to this layer, and I don't want to touch the background layer, and I almost never touch directly onto the background layer, so that's why I never duplicate it. And for instance, let's just have a look what we could use this layer for. Now, if we go up here to my dog's eyes here, and she's got a little bit of sleep here, and she's got little bits of white fluff and the odd stray hair here, and so on this layer here, this blank layer, this is where I'm going to get rid of some of this. Now, I use a pen and tablet. If you're using the mouse, that's fine. If we go to the tools selector here, I'm going to select this one here called the Spot Healing tool. Now, there's a healing brush tool and there's a spot healing brush tool. They've both been around since I think it's CS5 they appeared, but I'm just going to use the spot healing one just now. And now, if you've got a pen and tablet, you can increase or decrease your brush size by using the square bracket keys on your keyboard. The right one will make it bigger and the left one will make it smaller. But if you hold down the Control and Alt keys on your keyboard, and if you have a pen and touch like this here, I have a pen, the forward button on my pen is the right click. So if I hold down the Control and Alt key and then I press the right click, I can make the mouse bigger or smaller, so the cursor can be bigger or smaller. And if I go up and down with the movements, I can make the hardness of the tool either 100%, I can go all the way down to 100%, make it 100% hard, or going up the way I can make it 0% hardness. I'm going to leave it at 0 for this particular tool, and for what I want I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. So left and right, left makes it small, right makes it larger. So we'll go down to here, and the bit I'm going to touch is this. If we zoom in even further, and now how would I get this hand appearing? If I hold the space bar down, the cursor becomes the hand, which means I can now, just dragging the pen across the surface of my tablet, I can move the picture about however I want it. And so move it to the center, and just a little bit bigger. If you're using a spot healing tool, make it just a little bit bigger than the area you want to heal. And I want to get rid of this stuff here, so I'm just going to drag down over it, and I've got a pressure sensitive setting on here, so if I'm not covering enough area I can press a little bit harder and it gives it a bigger spread, and that's done a not too bad job. I'm just going to get rid of this little bit here, and that's fine. And now I would just go, essentially all I'm doing is tapping the keyboard, sorry, the tablet surface with my pen, and I'm get rid of some of these spots. Right, I'm not going to do them all just now. This is just a quick video, but I'll do the worst ones, like these hairs. They're natural. That's what, you know. It's a dog. It's got stray hairs. And this one here, again, if I just take the pen nice and gently down it, as long as I'm covering it, either side of it, it should do a not bad job of it. And if you get a little bit that you think that's just not really a great, go over it again, and it does a good job of getting rid of it. So this layer I'm on, this empty layer, this is where I'm doing all these adjustments. I'm doing them within this empty layer. I'll do a little bit more, but I'm not going to do the whole head. When I'm adjusting these type of images, it's in the main to get rid of anything that's going to be distracting. It's got a little bit of grass there, so we'll just get rid of that. I print out a lot of these pictures of my dogs, so I want them looking good if I'm sending them away to print. So if we just zoom out a little bit, and to zoom in and out, I'm holding the control key down on the keyboard and then hitting the plus key on the numeric part of the keyboard, the plus or the minus. And you can see that looks not bad. Now let's go in a little bit. If I turn this layer off, this will hide what I've just done. And you can see there's a layer off, and there it's back on. And you can see just by doing these small adjustments. But all the time, if I close this and if I save this image now, save it as a Photoshop document, a PSD, and open it in a year from now, it'll still be in the same state. And if in a year from now I think, actually I want to leave a more natural look, I could just delete that layer, or I can turn it off. And if I turn the layer off and I saved it now, if I saved it as a JPEG, if I flattened it down to save it as a JPEG, it would, anytime you hide a layer, when you turn the layer off, you're actually hiding it. And anytime you hide the layer, if you save it as a JPEG, it will save with that layer still hidden. So always make sure the layer's on or off that you want. But that's the first one. This is just a blank layer, and that's that. So the next thing I would do with this image is these light bits up here are a little bit distracting. So what I'm going to do is make another blank layer, and you can, if you double click on the actual text on the layer, you can give it a name. So this is the spot healing. That's a spot healing layer. Now, sometimes I get lots of layers and it's worth naming them. But that's, so I'm going another empty layer. And on this one here, I'm going to get the clone stamp tool, and the clone stamp is essentially, it's a copy paste tool. I'm going to copy something from over here and paste it up there. Again, make it bigger. I'll make my brush a little bit smaller. I'm calling this a brush, it's actually your cursor. I mean, it's not the brush tool, but essentially it's like a brush. It's got all the same. Right, so I'm going to take a sample from around about here, and take it there, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to paint. Get the brush a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to paint over these lighter areas. Now, the reason I've got this solid line appeared here is obviously because if I take that down, when I'm cloning, let's go back, I'll back up a little bit with this. When I'm cloning from here, if you look over there, you'll see a little cursor appear. I'll try and do it a little bit better so you can see it. So if I clone from here, I think this is where I clone from there roughly. And if you see the cursor on that side of the page, on the other side of the image, when I get to the edge, essentially it's just copying the hard edge in. We don't want that. So I'll take a sample from a little bit further into the image, maybe about here, and I'll just paint away, and I'm just going to paint away these light bits, and that's fine. It's not too distracting, there's not too much copy stuff there. This leaf here's distracting me a little bit, so I'm just going to paint that out. And the way to make it look fairly natural is try not to get things that are going to copy and the patterns that are going to repeat. So that's that done. So now I've got two layers here. and this one is clone. You don't have to name them if you only got one. I'm just naming them because I've got two different things here. So if I turn the clone off, you'll see what I did within that layer is now hidden, and now it's showing. Okay, so that's empty layers. You've also got adjustment layers, and an adjustment layer is found down at this little icon with a half circle with two kind of white and whatever. If you click on the adjustment layer, you've got all these different adjustments you can make. Exposure, levels, curves, solid color, photo filter, etc. Now you will also find these up here, image adjustments. So let's go to the image adjustments for just say hue saturation, and I'm just going to really whack up the hue. And what this one does here, it will adjust only what's ever on that top layer. So if I wanted this whole picture to be adjusted, I would need to make a copy of the picture with all the adjustments in place and put it to the top of my image. I'm going to undo that because that's, I prefer not to use this one up here. But there are other ones in here that aren't available down here, so it's worth knowing where they are. I tend to use the adjustment layers from here. Now again, if I pick up the hue saturation from here, this is going to affect everything that's visible on the layers below. So if let me just make this really random, put that to here, it's affecting the whole image, everything that's below it. And we'll reset that back to 0. So these layers, when you open them, the adjustment layers, they're going to affect everything below them, and it's important that it's below them because let's just do this again. And I'm going to duplicate this layer here, and you can see that this is affecting everything. But if I put this layer up to the top, this adjustment here isn't affecting what top. If I turn this top layer off, you can see we go back to the affected layer. So we'll get rid of that copy there, and we'll put this back to 0. When you open an adjustment layer, it comes with one of these. Now this is a layer mask, and the best way I can describe a layer mask is when it's white you can see through the mask, and when it's black, everything, all the adjustments on this layer, which I'll just show you now. I'm going to fill this layer with black. I've got a keyboard shortcut, but to fill it with black, if you hit D on your keyboard first, it'll get your default colours here. Then hit X to get the black colour on top. Now if I hold Shift and hit the backspace, I've got an option to fill. This is a fill option, and I'm going to fill this layer here because I've got this layer highlighted, so I'm going to fill it with black. And when it's filled with black, it means the mask is hidden. The mask is closed, if you like. So when it's white, it's open. Black, it's closed. There's a saying there: black to conceal, white to reveal. So if I want to reveal anything below the mask, or anything, the adjustments that I've just did here, we have to make a hole in the mask. And to make a hole in the mask, you paint white onto it. Okay, so it's either white to start with, and you can see all the adjustment, but if I only want to see the adjustment in just a small part of this layer, and if I go back to the layer, I'm going to paint, so I've got my brush tool and I'm going to paint white into the eyes, but I'm not actually painting into these eyes, I'm painting onto this mask, and you're going to see whatever the mask is hiding. So when it's black, it's hiding. So let's have a look. Now these are going to look pretty bad, and I'm going to make them look even worse just so we can really see what we're doing here. So as you can see, the mask, there's 2 holes in it, and all I'm seeing below the 2 holes is the eyes, because that's where I've made the holes in the mask. If I want to include the nose, let's paint some in there, and we can make it bigger. We can reveal everything or nothing, or just bits of other adjustment, and that's quite important. So let's get rid of this layer now. My poor dog. Another adjustment layer I use a lot is the curves one, and curves is great. It lets you can use it to set the contrast, to set the black points, to set the white point. When you open curves up, again when you open any of these adjustment layers, they always come with a mask, and the mask is always white, so it's always from the outset revealing everything you're going to do. So I'm going to take this tool here, this is called a scrubber, and it's going to let me just go to scrub. All you do is you go up or down. That's pretty much it. And if you look here while I'm got my mouse over on the image, you'll see that little circle, and that's telling you what part of the image I will be affecting. So if I go over to, say, this bit here on the chest, you see it's away down at the bottom corner. That's the blackest part of the image. And if I wanted to just set a black point here, I could do it for here. If I go down the way, that's heading towards being jet black. I've not actually done anything with that, it's still at 0, 0. So maybe I want just a little bit lighter on the face, so I'm just going to take a little bit here. But that's also brought light into the lighter part of the image, and I didn't really want to do that, so I'm going to go up to here to the light part, and I'm going to click and drag down the way. Not too far. So you can see that we've affected that. Do we like it or do we not like it? Maybe we don't like it. If we turn it off, turn it on. So I'm going to take that off. To get rid of one of these points on a curved layer, you just hold the mouse over it until you see the crosshair up here, and then you can just left click and drag it off your screen and it'll disappear. What I'm going to do with this is put a little bit more black into your coat. Just pull it down a little bit, but in the lighter parts I'm just going to pull it up a little bit, and that just creates a little bit of contrast. And it's pretty much only affecting the dog. But if it was affecting a part of the image I don't want it to affect, for instance the eyes, I can go to the mask, get black as my foreground colour over here, and to flip between black and white you just hit the X on the keyboard. I can now take my brush and just say I don't want any of that adjustment to affect her face. I'm going to get a bigger brush, and I'm just going to paint black onto the mask, and that's going to paint a hole in the mask, and it'll hide the adjustment of her face. And we can turn the mask on and off to see just if we've made any significant difference, and maybe just take it a little bit off her ear. So there, the adjustments we've done at the moment, they're only affecting some part of the image, they're not affecting the whole part of the image. The next one I would do, I'm going to make a selection of her eyes because I want to add a bit of colour into her eyes. Now, the way I do this, I make what's called a quick mask. To make a quick mask, you have the brush tool selected into about the size of the area you want to select. I'm going to select the brown parts of her eye, and I'm not doing anything. My mouse isn't actually on the keyboard at the moment, on the tablet at the moment. So at the moment I'm not working on any layer. I'm going to press the letter Q on my keyboard, and if you have a look at the letter up here, it's now changed to quick mask, and you need black as your foreground colour, so hit X on the keyboard, and now I can just paint an area that I want to select. Now it's painting it in red, which is fine. You can have the mask colour any colour you want. I've got it red for a reason. working on a black dog, you want to see what you're painting. Now, although it looks like I'm painting on her eye, I'm actually only marking an area for selection. I'm not actually physically painting anything. This is just showing you what area I have chosen to select. Now, if I hit Q now on the keyboard, you can see that that has now turned that into a selection. Now, when you've got something highlighted, if you go to an adjustment layer, and I want to do a curves layer again, if I hit the curves, you can see it's gave me a black, it's opened up, instead of opening with a white mask, it's opened up with a black mask, and the area I had selected, it's poked holes in the mask at that area. So any change to this image I do right now is only going to affect the eyes. And if I put this all the way up here, you'll see that, or all the way down there, you'll see that. And for this particular thing, what I like to do is put a little bit of brightness in, and then go into the RGB colour. Now the RGB channels are your red, green and blue. If you go into the red channel, I like to add a little bit red into the eyes just to help them pop a little. So we've got the scrubber tool again, and the scrubber just means I can touch the image with this sampler and just drag up to add it, or drag down to remove it. So I'm dragging up a little. Okay, and then if we the RGB is the red, green and blue channels. Red has an opposite, and it is cyan. Green has an opposite, and it's magenta, and blue has an opposite, which is yellow. So if we go into the blue channel, I'll show you what I mean by that. If I drag up, I'm going to add blue, and if I drag down, I'm going to add yellow. So if we drag down, we'll add a little bit yellow in there. I'm just going to take that right along the edge because it's not quite on the edge there. At any time, if you make a mess of this, a curves adjustment layer, they've got this button here. You just press that, and that will reset the layer for you back to scratch. Okay, so I've made the adjustment I want. If we turn this layer off and then on, you can see it's maybe just a little bit too much, but as we go out of the image, yep, still a little bit too much. It's a little bit bright, a little bit. So when you've made an adjustment on a layer, you're not finished there. You've got blend modes here, where you can darken, lighten, different ones. We'll have another tutorial on them. But you've also got opacity, and the opacity at the moment is 100%. You can see the whole adjustment, but if I drop the opacity down to 0, the adjustment's completely hidden now. So maybe I only want half it hidden, or half the opacity, or 40%. 40% looks about not too bad. Now you can either drag this slider there to move it. You can actually just drag on the word opacity left or right. Left click and just drag. Or you can use this wee drop down. Sorry, but in this little box here, you can type in the number. So I thought 40% looked not too bad, so we'll go with that. 40%. And that's it done. Oops, I just put it back up to 100%. 40%. So there you go. That's a little bit on adjustment layers. Actually, I think I want 50% with that now. We want the fill to be 100%, and we want that to be 50%. In just a few minutes, this image is changed from here where we started and here where we are now. There's just a bit more contrast, the colours are that little bit richer, and if you wanted to add a bit more colour into that, you could open another adjustment layer. Again, curves, I like curves, and again, if you go into the properties part up here, you can go into the red, because we've got quite a bit of red in here. We'll use a scrubber, and we'll just nudge it just up just slightly. not too much. And that's where people go wrong with it. These adjustments, they go too, oops, I lose my mouse a wee bit. They go too far with them. So we'll put that up a little bit, and then we'll go down to the blue channel. So the opposite of blue is yellow, so we'll just bring that down a little. And if you can see, the lighter parts of our coat are now changing. So that was an autumn picture, and you can see the blue in our markings there. So if we go up a little bit, I can put more blue in there, and it makes it more cold. Or I can bring it down a bit, and I'll go back into the red, and I'll take the red up here just a little bit. Now again, that's just too much, so I'm going to reduce the opacity to about half. And if we turn the layer off and on, you can see, well, it's almost like it's a summer instead of autumn now. So that's a little bit on adjustment layers, how to use them. Hope this helps. Feel free to ask me any questions you want. Bye.